Hello, Star Citizens! Welcome to another episode of 10 for the Writers. I'm Will Weisbaum, and with me is the newest member of the writing team here at Star Citizen, Adam. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam Weezer. This is going on my third month here at the company, so very excited to be a part of this and very excited to sit in for Dave today, who is still in the UK working on the Squadron 42 shoot. So, hey Dave, hope all is well over there.
And part of that caveat is without Dave here, you cannot trust any of our answers. We are just shooting in the wind. He is our heart and soul. And along we'll be answering questions today that were asked by subscribers, and of course the whole 10-4 series wouldn't be possible without the subscribers. So thank you guys so much for stepping up and really being a part of the team.
Thanks for making this possible, guys.
So first question. So Mac V1 RUS. Regarding the player reputation system, beyond basic good and evil alignment, will career choices, actions also play into their reputation and the way they interact with NPCs and the rest of the universe? And if so, to what extent? Kind of like a big part when we were approaching how we were going to be handling the reputation system is, as the writing team, we kind of didn't really like some of the way other games handled alignments with having it be very binary. Where it is good and evil, and it feels a lot of times in games like that you're only making one choice. You make a choice at the beginning, am I going to be good or evil, and after that you're not really making choices, you're just sticking with that initial one. So we're really big fans of kind of gray alignments of, in every situation you're in, you're asking yourself, what is my character going to do in this situation, and not knowing a clear result of your actions. Like, you know, if you want to slap someone because they're acting crazy, then maybe they'll thank you for it, or maybe they'll be really pissed and try to stab you, but like that kind of thing. So I think that'll tie a lot into the way the reputation system works, where all these different organizations that you can work with or against will have their beliefs and their moralities, and your actions will either get them to feel more positively towards your character or more antagonistic, and that's kind of how the reputation goes.
It seems like we want the scale to be more dynamic than just a simple bar as to good or towards bad, you know, and that can definitely be affected, much like how we have multiple ship companies and multiple weapon companies, like, and they all have their own goals. And the same thing here, when you have different guilds, when you have different, you know, things you're going to be interacting with, you know, like, they're all going to have their own scale to a certain degree that'll kind of factor into this. So the end goal is to definitely make it more dynamic than we've seen in a lot of games.
And at a certain point, when your reputation starts getting high enough, hopefully we can, we're still working on all this with design, but hopefully start incorporating things where the NPCs are reacting to you appropriately. Like, if you get really high reputation with the bounty hunting guild, you're a really well-known bounty hunter, then criminals will start being aware of that reputation and start acting accordingly and being more antagonistic towards you or avoiding you altogether, depending on their own personality. So there's kind of all these interesting dynamics that can come out of the reputations and how they play with other groups that, if we can pull off, it'll be really kind of neat. So we have a lot of work to do, but
it's very exciting. It's definitely something we're looking forward to digging into and really getting the details figured out for that.
Yeah, we've been really flexing our muscles on this in the start in the Squadron 42, and hopefully we'll be talking about more of that conversation system, and then really seeing these initial phases and how it's just going to explode wildly when it gets into the persistent universe in an awesome way.
Very cool. Okay, from Andy. Hey guys, will we be able to interact or eavesdrop on NPCs in areas like pubs to gain information about current events happening, perhaps use that info as a quest invitation? Yeah, it's something that will definitely be apparent or be around in the game and in lots of different areas. So yeah, we're looking forward to being able to have the players go out there and, you know, just through the daily course of running around doing things, have little things waiting for you in different parts of the verse.
Yeah, discovery, I think, will be a big part of it. I think we want to try to obfuscate a little bit of the classic system of guy standing there with an exclamation point over his head. So it'll be more about, you know, being in that bar, having your drink, and overhearing two guys talking about this huge run that they're making to a system.
Yeah.
And what do you do with that information? Do you try to undercut them and deliver goods like quicker than they will? Do you try to rob them and kind of kick it off? It might not be like, you know, we'll have to figure out how the exact, you know, quest system is going to work when it pops up on your thing, but hopefully it'll trigger at least that information into the system we have, where things just spiral out from that one little tidbit of information.
Yeah, try to make it a little more immersive, a little more you know, engaging, so that players that do take the time to pay attention to those small details can, you know, get the drop on certain things like that and use it to their benefit. Slando
Malresian asks, we have already seen a hint of galactic gear in commercials for various ships. Will there be in-fiction TV and radio programs that keep up with the ever-changing persistent universe? Other games did this extremely well, helping to make the game world that much more immersive. So yeah, I mean, we've already started kind of laying the groundwork in a lot of our dispatches, and now on Around the Verse we have Empire Report. And so those are kind of our dipping our toes into this idea of these ongoing fictional pieces. So hopefully when the persistent universe goes live, you'll be having semi-regular Empire reports that are commenting on what's happening in the game at that moment, or Kaizen's giving the latest financial update about how so-and-so company is doing really well. And it's going to be a monumental task, and we're going to have to really figure out, you know, how much we're going to be able to iterate and how quickly, and really streamline that process. So, you know, in an ideal world, we can record stuff and get it in very fast. At least that's the end goal. So I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, and I know, again, from just my brief time here, that there's a very conscious effort, especially from Dave, in making sure that the personalities behind these shows, the personalities that are leading the discussions, are more than just kind of like, you know, vehicles to get information across. He wants them to be real, living, breathing people with viewpoints, with certain angles on things, and with even some kind of like long-term kind of like perspectives. So it's good to know that he's thinking about that already, that we're trying to think of these people as people that will be affecting that verse in many different ways going forward. When that came up, it's good to see that and to know that that's, you know, definitely something we'll be working on and digging into.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just from the heart of Chris's vision of the players in Star Citizen having that impact on the universe, and part of that will be seeing, you know, their actions hopefully influence these programs that they can watch and listen to. And then hopefully not everything will be a new show too. Hopefully we'll get to do some fun kind of fiction shows, which would be kind of neat to do. Yeah. Finally write that noir romance mystery that I think I'm going to get my hands on.
Next we've got Nostromo 1977. Hi writers. Has CIG ever considered adding an intergalactic Red Cross to the Star Citizen lore, and ultimately the PU NPC-driven agency, which would generate humanitarian and disaster relief missions throughout the verse, including SAR, medical assistance, and evacuations? Yeah, no, there was a lore post which recently kind of touched upon this briefly about you know, a non-governmental agency going to provide aid for I believe the FORA system. So yeah, it's definitely something that's in the back of our mind, and it's something that excites us to be able to have that be an element of the game too. So not everything needs to be government driven, not everything needs to be simple kind of hunt bad guy, bring bad guy back. It is a bigger universe, there are bigger problems and other questions out there, so being able to do humanitarian aid, medical relief, stuff like that to the various systems, I think is something that we would definitely like to make sure we incorporate going forward.
Yeah, that famine post was a great example, and then there's also the Charon 3 Civil War. We talked a little bit about, like, you know, the ships trying to run the blockade there. So I think the idea of players being able to help people in a positive way is really kind of fun and refreshing, and lets them feel more noble, and it isn't always, like you say, about killing the bad guy. And then, you know, and then even on a smaller, more personal, you know, level, we're gonna have people who get their ship's blown up and are sitting there in little escape pods that need to be picked up, and those search and rescue operations going around and helping your fellow player out and bringing him back in like that. That I think could make some really strong connections between players floating in this big, dark, scary universe. So that'll be really nice.
Yeah.
So it's something we'll hopefully explore more as we go forward, and it's a really interesting part of the verse for us. Aragorn BH asks, is there a plan to dynamically record player activities in a personal journal? And then he goes on to some more details from that. But at the basic point of it, yeah, we're definitely going to have kind of a running log, hopefully. I say we definitely are going to have. The hope and talks and kind of going on right now is that we're going to have a running tally of all the exciting things you've done in game, all the systems you visited, all the people you've interacted with, how many miles you've flown and all that. And the personal journal aspect of it is something we've touched on. It gets a little complicated dynamically creating emotional entries based off content, because we really want the players to have their own sense of personality. So if the stuff that we're generating for them doesn't quite line up with how they're feeling, then it might be a disconnect there. So we still have to do more experimentation to figure out if something's going to be on that level. But I think probably the most exciting thing about it is we have Moby-Glass as a way to ground all of that information in lore by using the Moby-Glass apps, and there'll be a bunch of different ones to track all the different sorts of information about your character. So maybe all the places you visit will be tracked in a travel app on your Moby-Glass and stuff like that. So theming it that way, I think, will help immersion a lot for players in Star Citizen.
So we've got next question from Foxy Fritz. I know it's very far off, but will the political situation ever change in the PU? Yes, that's definitely something that we're going to be digging into the future. It's something I know when I was first talking to Dave about this project, the idea of having elections in the PU was exciting to me. The idea of kind of like having a campaign, or having to kind of like see that and then go about, and how the players would actually react to that and react to the message put out there, I think was very intriguing. So it's definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to digging into once we get to that step, once we get to that stage.
Yeah, the franchisement that comes from citizenship and either getting involved that way, or we have this Tavaran candidate who's running right now in the dispatches for Senate, and kind of thinking of, how will the players be able to influence that campaign or affect the political issues, and then on top of it, based on their feedback on who they want to see elected when that person does come into power, to kind of have it feel like it made a difference, like that person coming into office changed the universe in some way. So that's something we're definitely excited about, and it should be really cool. So Kit Bash asks, writing scripts for interactive conversations must be hard. Can you tell us a little bit about how you approach it? Also, some RPGs tend to fall into dialogue trees whose branches all just loop back to the same options and only amount to skipping or reordering parts of the conversation. You can keep asking questions about different topics until you've caught them all. Is that something you're looking to avoid in favor of more natural feel flow in Star Citizen conversations? So Chris's, marching orders from the get-go has always been immersion, and being able to go back and re-ask questions all over and just having these kind of looping cycles of narrative definitely break that. So from the get-go, it's always been, if you miss a conversation, you miss it. You can't really re-trigger them. And, if there's a branch and you choose one of the branches, you don't get to see the other one. That's your choice, and you kind of have to live with that. And putting those stakes that high and knowing that these conversations are kind of delicate flowers for you to experience, I think gives them more value and weight, and hopefully will make them more engaging in that. And then if you want to find out more about characters, that you really have to actively engage with the NPCs rather than just clicking on them and going through these big cycling loops. So we're still definitely fleshing out the whole conversation system, and we've been doing some awesome stuff with the Squadron 42 shoot that's going on right now, and I'm really excited about. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I think
Yeah, and just the first question, the process behind it, I haven't done as many interactive conversations yet as he has, obviously doing a lot of the Squadron 42 work. But I do think the process of actually writing branching conversations is really interesting, at least from a writing perspective. And it can be difficult, but if you know the character, if you know who's saying it, then it's just about modulating their responses based on the way it goes. So it's actually something that I find a lot of fun to do, and it is kind of interesting to do, is to be able to really understand a character by getting not only one view of their relationship to a subject or an answer, but a stream of them. So it's something that when I get a chance to do it, I definitely like doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of the process, at least how I approach it, is when you come to that question of when it feels like the player has two possible things. Like, it makes sense for you to be able to go in two different directions. Like, it's not a clear kind of answer. That's when we say, all right, this is the perfect place for a branch. And we try to come up with kind of really like two big differences. If both answers feel very similar, then it's kind of like, why are we doing the branch? We might as well just have the answer be what it is. So it's kind of the first step is thinking of, all right, what are the two things you can say in this situation? And then, like you said, thinking about the NPC's reaction to those and where it goes off from there, and then, further branching, and it can get a mess really fast. Right now we're using traditional screenwriting software to do kind of the branching dialogue stuff, which has its own sort of problems. It's not really built for non-linear conversations, so we have to use all these kind of headers and stuff to know if this is option one, and then it goes here, and little arrows to point where it's branching back to, and all this stuff. But we have a crack team of programmers and stuff who are working on exploring options to help us kind of write these more in kind of a tree node flow mode, which is coming online. So hopefully that'll help us do more and more complicated stuff. It'll be great.
Next question is from Commodore. What is it like to write for a game that is actively being created or changed? For example, the star map and jump mechanics have not been narrowed down. How do you take this into account when you're writing? So yeah, it actually explains part of the reason why so many questions are asked of us that we need to kind of soft pedal around to a certain degree. It's a lot of stuff is still, the details are being figured out, but from our perspective, sometimes details are good, and sometimes being able to kind of, it makes you more creative, is to figure out a way to explain the emotion or the character without getting into that, necessary specifics. That said, there are some aspects of the game which are internally there. We have a little bit more advanced, but maybe isn't confirmed, isn't quite done. So we need to make sure that when we do put any kind of information out there, we just make sure it's something that should be getting out there, and that it's confirmed, and that it's something that we can actually deliver for you guys. So it's something that we're always conscious of, and we have many layers of people looking at it just to make sure that wait, we need to be careful about that quite yet.
There's definitely times where you wish like everything was locked in so you could just have answers, but that kind of open-endedness can be fun to explore sometimes, and not getting bogged down in specific mechanics when we're doing our stories, and really focusing in more on feelings and emotions of the story of like, all right, it's not about the landing, it's about the exhilaration of the experience, and that's where we can add in from a lore perspective. And also, it's this real interesting triangle of development as far as this kind of in progress works, which makes it a really fun project to be on, where design, art, and narrative are all working, and it can start at any one of those points. Art can come up with a cool piece of concept art that then design takes and tries to make functional, and then we have to explain, or we come up with this idea of the Cargo Olympics was something really silly that we thought of, but design really liked, and is like looking at possibly you making it a thing. And so it kind of all feeds into each other, and it can start anywhere, and it's really neat, that kind of organic creative process. Yeah,
it's nice to have people from other departments walk into our office and be like, hey, we had a great idea, and kind of be able to hear that, and be able to like, oh, we should, that'll be perfect to kind of incorporate in, or kind of play around with. So it's good to have ideas coming from all different directions.
Daigoji Guy asks, does CR approve every piece of lore, or have style guides and preliminary world-building guides giving you more autonomy since rules are in place? I am consistently amazed by how on top of everything Chris Roberts is. he reads almost every piece of lore that we write. Like, you'll think, like, oh, this was just a small thing that I scribbled down, and then he'll mention it like a few weeks later, and he knows it all by heart. I mean, this game seems to be his lifeblood, and it's kind of awe-inspiring to work with him in that matter. So he sees everything. In the day-to-day, sometimes he's not giving direct approval. A lot of times it's the larger kind of tonal pieces he's given us marching orders on, and then Dave is kind of the stopgap for the approvals of all the narrative stuff, and then, you know, it's up to his call if he thinks something's more controversial or maybe steering away from something that's already been established. He'll run it past Chris and see. But those guides that we're all agreed on, you know, we keep going back to those as our source of fiction. You know, and you've probably had this experience even more so than mine from starting off more recently with so much more content in place, but about having, before you write anything, going and doing research on our already written material.
Yeah, it's been a huge learning curve, and I read all the lore before I started day one too, and was already felt like I was, you know, up to date like you guys are, and then I came in and I saw the internal website with all the stuff going on, and I was, you know, so it's but it's been fun. You know, luckily Sherry, our archivist, started at the same time too, so we've been going through the same process, and I've been able to talk to her about stuff like that. But yeah, Dave has been in the ground floor with Chris on a lot of these kind of like creative decisions and the lore decisions from day one. So he is very good about kind of like, you know, being just the database of like making sure that anything we write, if there's an issue, if it needs to be more specific, less specific, like he's on top of that, and he knows that. And yeah, obviously Chris is looped into all these conversations too, and very hands-on with every aspect. But Dave is very capable of you know, kind of like keeping the lore portion in check, that's for sure. Okay, so Cyberwolf asks, will we be able to play flashbacks of historical missions in single-player mission packs, or other characters perhaps through the eyes of an ancestor, a la Assassin's Creed, or famous military hero, like we play games that featured the Battle of Britain or Midway today in our Sims? I would love to be there during the last Tavaran War, watching the Suicide Run, or even First Contact with the Banu.
Man, you wouldn't have wanted to be there at the Tavaran War. That stuff was messed up.
It's definitely an interesting idea, and it's something that you know, I think is kind of built into the way the game is so far, is that we do have sim pods, we do have ways that even in the context of this world, like you could get in a sim pod and maybe there's a company in the verse that creates a game like that, which we may then be able to kind of like step out and then have you go back to. So it's definitely an interesting idea, and I think there's a lot of fertile ground for us to be able to explore stuff that's already happened, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Dave has established so much great history over these 900 years, and there's all these awesome, big, epic battles between all these species, and it would be really pretty neat to be able to go and have full-out wars, you know, and experience those historical moments. So I'm hoping that it'll be something to do, and it's definitely something we've talked about. It'd be really fun. Yeah, maybe one of them is a simulation of you being Messer and having to give a speech, like a speech simulator, like Prex X, to like rile up everyone.
Exactly. It's like Guitar Hero, but for Imperators. Yeah.
And then it's just you taking a bath as him for a while. The ultimate Messer simulation. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on another edition of 10 for the Writers. As always, again, thank you to the subscribers, and not only thank you to the subscribers, but thank you to all of the backers for making this incredible game possible. It wouldn't be here without you, so thank you.
Yeah, it's been an honor to work on this. It's fun to be a part of this. So yeah, keep the questions coming, and we'll see you again.
Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.